He was rejected for years, then became one of America's most beloved stars. Imagine spending years believing that maybe you just weren't good enough. Not because people told you once, but because life kept proving it over, again and again. Every audition ended the same way. "Thank you. We'll call you." But the phone never rang. While friends moved ahead, he stayed behind, wondering if he had chosen the wrong dream. There were days when success felt like something that happened only to other people. He wasn't the funniest man in the room, he wasn't the most handsome, he wasn't the loudest, he wasn't the obvious choice. In fact, most people would have walked away long before he ever became famous. But here's the question. What if your biggest breakthrough is hiding behind your longest season of rejection? Because that's exactly what happened to Steve Carell. Today, millions know him as one of the greatest comedy actors in America. The man who made people laugh until they cried. The unforgettable face behind Michael Scott. The actor who earned Emmy nominations, Golden Globe Awards, and worldwide respect. But almost nobody remembers how painfully ordinary his beginning was. This is not a story about instant success. This is the story of patience, the story of quiet persistence, the story of becoming extraordinary long after everyone stopped expecting it. And once you hear what Steve went through, you may never look at failure the same way again. Because sometimes life delays your success not to punish you, but to prepare you. And Steve Carell's journey proves exactly why. Most people believe success begins the moment the world notices you. But the truth is, success usually begins when nobody's watching. Long before Hollywood knew his name, Steve Carell was just another kid growing up in Massachusetts. He wasn't born into fame. He didn't grow up with powerful connections. His father worked as an electrical engineer. His mother was a psychiatric nurse. They gave him something more valuable than money. They taught him discipline, humility, and the courage to keep trying. As a child, Steve wasn't the loud, attention-seeking kid everyone expected to become a comedian. He was quiet, observant. He loved watching people, their expressions, their awkward moments, the little habits no one else noticed. Without realizing it, he was already training the skill that would one day make millions of people laugh. After graduating from high school, Steve attended Denison University in Ohio. But even there, he wasn't chasing Hollywood. He had no master plan, no guarantee, no shortcut. Like many young people, he was simply trying to figure out who he really was. Then, something unexpected happened. He joined an improvisational comedy group. For the first time, he discovered something that felt completely natural. Not because he was instantly the best, but because he genuinely loved making people smile. That small decision, which seemed almost insignificant at the time, would quietly change the direction of his entire life. But loving something and making a living from it are two very different battles. After college, Steve made a choice that terrified him. Instead of following a safe career, he decided to chase comedy. It sounded exciting, but the reality was far less glamorous. He would soon enter a world where rejection was normal, opportunities were rare, and thousands of talented people were fighting for the exact same dream. And Steve was about to learn that passion alone would never be enough. There comes a moment in every dream when excitement disappears and reality takes over. For Steve Carell, that moment arrived the day he stepped into the world of professional comedy. There were no red carpets, no cameras, no cheering crowds, only small stages, tiny audiences, and endless uncertainty. He joined Chicago's legendary improv community, where talented performers spent years sharpening their craft. Every performance felt like an audition. Every mistake felt bigger than it really was.
Some nights the audience laughed. Many nights they didn't. And in comedy, silence can be louder than failure. Steve wasn't trying to become famous. He was simply trying to become better. While others chased attention, he focused on improving one performance at a time, one joke at a time, one lesson at a time. But improvement doesn't pay the bills. Money was tight. Recognition was almost non-existent. Friends outside the entertainment industry were building stable careers, earning regular salaries, buying homes, moving forward. Meanwhile, Steve was still introducing himself to strangers, hoping someone would remember his name after the show. There were moments when doubt whispered, "Maybe this isn't for you." Every unsuccessful audition made that voice a little louder. Every rejection felt personal. And yet, he kept showing up, because deep inside, he understood something most people never do. Success isn't built on the days when everything goes right. It's built on the days when everything goes wrong, and you still refuse to quit. Then, after years of quiet persistence, a small opportunity finally appeared. Not a blockbuster movie, not a life-changing contract, just a chance to be seen. A small television appearance, a role so minor that most viewers would forget it within minutes. Many people would have called it insignificant. Steve didn't. He treated that tiny opportunity like it was the biggest stage in America, because he believed something powerful. If you can't give your best when only a few people are watching, you'll never be ready when millions are. And without realizing it, that mindset was slowly opening doors that had remained locked for years.
Sometimes, life doesn't change because you become more talented. It changes because someone finally notices the talent you've been building all along. For Steve Carell, that moment didn't arrive overnight. It came after years of showing up, working hard, and refusing to disappear. His dedication eventually earned him a place with Chicago's famous improv theater, where performers were expected to think fast, adapt instantly, and connect with an audience without a script. There, Steve learned one lesson that would shape his entire career. Don't try to be the funniest person in the room. Be the most believable. Instead of forcing jokes, he focused on making every character feel real. Every awkward pause, every nervous smile, every uncomfortable silence felt authentic. People didn't just laugh, they recognized themselves. Then came another opportunity. He joined the Dana Carvey show. For Steve, this looked like the breakthrough he had been waiting for. A national television show, a talented cast,
the chance to prove himself to millions. Everything finally seemed to be falling into place. But life had another surprise. The show struggled with ratings and was canceled after only a handful of episodes. Just like that, the opportunity he'd worked years to reach was gone. Imagine how crushing that must have felt. Years of sacrifice, only to watch your biggest chance disappear almost immediately. Many people would have taken that as a sign to quit. Steve saw it differently. He refused to believe that one failure could define an entire career. So, instead of feeling sorry for himself, he went back to work. He kept auditioning. He kept performing. He kept improving. Not because success was guaranteed, but because giving up guaranteed failure. Soon, another door quietly opened. Steve joined The Daily Show as a correspondent. It wasn't the leading role he dreamed about, but this time, people across America finally started noticing something different. His timing, his sincerity, his ability to make ordinary moments feel unforgettable. For the first time, Hollywood wasn't just seeing another comedian, it was beginning to see a truly unique actor. And waiting just around the corner was the opportunity that would change his life forever. A television series that almost nobody expected to become a global phenomenon.
For years, Steve Carell had been preparing for a moment he didn't even know was coming. Every rejection, every canceled show, every forgotten audition had quietly shaped the actor he was becoming. Then, in the early 2000s, Hollywood called again. This time, the opportunity looked strangely ordinary. A new American television series based on a British sitcom called The Office. At first, almost no one believed it would work. The original British version had a loyal fan base. Critics questioned whether an American adaptation was even necessary. Some predicted it would fail within a single season. For Steve, this wasn't just another acting job. It was another chance to prove he belonged. He was cast as Michael Scott, the awkward, overconfident, often misunderstood manager of a small paper company. On paper, the character didn't sound like a hero. He made embarrassing mistakes. He said the wrong things. He constantly searched for approval. But Steve saw something deeper. He didn't play Michael Scott as a joke. He played him as a human being, a lonely man, desperate to be loved.
Someone who wanted to make people happy, even when he didn't know how. That single decision changed everything. Instead of laughing at Michael, people slowly began laughing with him. They recognized his insecurities, his kindness, his imperfections. And somehow, those imperfections made him unforgettable. But success didn't arrive immediately. The first season of The Office received mixed reviews. Television ratings were disappointing. Some executives wondered whether the show should continue at all. Once again, Steve found himself standing at a familiar crossroads. The same uncertainty, the same fear, the same possibility that everything could disappear. But unlike years earlier, he wasn't the same man anymore. Rejection no longer frightened him, because he had learned something powerful. If you've survived years of failure, one more obstacle cannot stop you. And that quiet confidence was about to transform The Office into one of the most beloved shows in American history.
Sometimes the greatest victories don't happen overnight. They happen so slowly that you almost don't notice your life changing. That was exactly what happened to Steve Carell. After a difficult first season, something unexpected began to happen. People gave The Office another chance. Viewers started sharing their favorite scenes. Friends recommended the show to friends. Week after week, the audience grew. What had once looked like a failing television series was quietly becoming a cultural phenomenon. And at the center of it all stood Steve Carell. His performance as Michael Scott was unlike anything television had seen before. One moment, he could make an entire room burst into laughter. The next, he could make millions of viewers feel sympathy for a man who simply wanted to belong. That emotional balance became his greatest strength. Soon, the awards began to arrive. In 2006, Steve Carell won the Golden Globe Award for Best Actor in a Television Series, Musical, or Comedy. It was a moment the world celebrated. But for Steve, the trophy represented something much deeper. It wasn't proof that he was talented. It was proof that years of rejection had not been wasted. Every failed audition had prepared him. Every canceled project had made him stronger. Every moment of doubt had taught him resilience. And now, millions of people around the world finally saw what persistence could create. But even while becoming one of television's biggest stars, Steve refused to let fame change who he was. Crew members often described him as kind, respectful, humble. He treated assistants, camera operators, writers, and fellow actors with the same respect. Because Steve understood something. Success means very little if you lose your character while chasing it. As The Office became one of the most loved sitcoms in history, Steve Carell became far more than an actor. He became proof that ordinary people with extraordinary persistence can achieve extraordinary dreams. Yet, the biggest decision of his career was still waiting. A decision that shocked Hollywood and left millions of fans asking one question: why would someone leave at the very peak of success? After years of waiting, after decades of trying, Steve Carell finally reached the moment that many people thought would never come. The Office was no longer just a television show. It became a part of American culture. Millions of people connected with the characters. They laughed with them. They cried with them. And at the center of it all was Steve Carell's unforgettable performance as Michael Scott. The man who was once ignored by Hollywood had become one of the most respected actors in the world. But the most inspiring part of Steve's story is not the fame. It's not the awards. It's not the success. It's the journey before success. Because Steve Carell wasn't an overnight success. He was a man who spent years working when nobody was watching. He continued when opportunities disappeared. He believed in himself even when the world had not given him a reason to do so. After leaving The Office, Steve continued proving that he was more than just a comedian. He took on serious movie roles. He showed audiences that he could make people laugh, but he could also tell powerful emotional stories. His career became proof of one important lesson. Your timeline does not have to look like everyone else's. Some people find success in their 20s, some in their 30s, some in their 40s, and some, like Steve Carell, discover their greatest chapter after years of struggle. So if you are watching this and you feel like you are behind, remember Steve's journey. The years you spend learning, the failures you experience, the moments when nobody believes in you, they are not wasted. They are building the person you need to become. Because success is not about being the first. It is about being prepared when your opportunity finally arrives. Steve Carell waited years for his moment, but when that moment came, he was ready. And that is why his story will always remind us that it is never too late to chase a dream, because your best chapter may still be waiting to begin.